Hello, I'm Ruben Cornell and welcome to this week's Samplecast. This is episode number 22. There's so much stuff in this week's show, I'm just going to get straight on with it without any delay. Let's get going. Welcome to this week's Roundup, and first off, a really interesting ethnic instrument from Impact Soundworks. It's Ventus Shakuhachi. I think I am pronouncing that correctly. This is a Shakuhachi sample library for the full version of Contact. Basically, it's a sampled ancient Japanese flute, and it sounds really lovely. You've got 6,000 samples here with 15 different playing techniques, and there's 600 pre-recorded phrases and also playable multi-sampled articulations as well. There's an FX rack on board too for manipulating the sound. So this is the first in their new range of ethnic wind instruments. They've promised plenty more, and they're all going to use the same kind of interface, so if you do pick this up and get used to playing with it, then you won't have any further trouble down the line getting used to a new interface. Check it out at the Impact Soundworks website. I think you'll agree it sounds rather beautiful. Next up, a new piano from a company that I've not featured before, but they've been around for years. It's Ruby Grand from SoundMagic. They've sampled a Yamaha C7 grand piano. If you're not familiar with the Yamaha C7, you really should be, and you will have heard it in lots of rock and pop records and also a few classical recordings, I'll vouch as well. This is a separate plugin for PC and Mac. It doesn't run in Contact. They've got their own bespoke engine, and you've got a staggering 4,000 different tunings available in this piano. You've got also 40 different customizable elements within the interface, including user-definable dampener system and lots of other bits and bobs for manipulating the sound. The engine's also got a sympathetic resonance generator on board for creating even more realism, and there's lots of other clever stuff going on under the hood too. There don't seem to be many videos online showing you how to use the Ruby Grand, but there's some great audio demos on the SoundMagic website. I'd check those out if I were you. I was really struck by the sound of this next library, although it falls into a category that has been well trodden over the years. It's basically ambient sounds and atmospheres from Frozen Plain, and the sample library is called Slow. It runs in the full version of Contact. It's over 500 megabytes in size, and it's basically a 2-layer instrument with 62 sounds assignable for each layer, and these run into 4 different effect slots. You've also got customizable LFOs which are animated within the interface, and there's 109 presets in total, that's single sounds and multis. As I say, it's got a lovely shifting kind of ethereal sound. The demos online are very impressive. If you've never heard of Frozen Plain before, then I would urge you to check out some of their more unusual Contact instruments that they do, or their Victorian music box, which is completely free on their website. Check it out at Frozen Plain. I've got a long history with Embertone. I've produced a lot of their walkthrough videos in the past for them, and I'm a big fan of their interfaces and the sounds of their libraries in particular, very realistic. They've got a new library out called Recorders, and this runs in the full version of Contact. It's a full set of recorders, so you've got bass, tenor, alto, soprano and sopranino as well. 7,000 samples in there. It's 5.5 gigabytes in total, which is pretty big for a recorder library. The articulations cover longs, shorts and trills, and they've also sampled true legato in 4 round-robin variations. You've got vibrato and dynamic control, and a combine mode as well, which mixes all the 5 instruments together for the full range of playing, from the very deepest basses to the upper range of the sopranino. Anyone who's picked up any of Embertone's older libraries like Ivory Winds is going to be well familiar with the interface and how this works and their kind of sampling ethos. I would urge you to have a listen, it's got a great sound. Lastly, in this week's roundup, it's another guitar library from Ample Sound. It's Ample Bass Upright 2, and this is over 4 gigabytes in size and runs in Ample Sound's bespoke engine. You've got 6 articulations here: sustains, mutes, natural harmonics, hammer-ons, pull-offs, legato slides, and slides in and out of notes too. It's an upright bass that's been recorded in 2 ways. Firstly, they've mic'd it up in the normal way for a kind of acoustic sound, but secondly, they've also used the direct input, which supplies a separate lot of samples, and you can use further processing on both of those different sound sets. There's a new fretless slide system which they've introduced in this library for smooth legato slides, and if you want to check it out, there's a free 7-day demo which is fully functional. There's no limitations at all. You can pick that up from the Ample Sound website. It runs in Mac and Windows. This week's big review is Simple Violin by Fluffy Audio, and I want to start out this review with a couple of questions that I asked myself when I was looking into this library. How many solo violin libraries do you already own, and do you really think you need another one? These are, as I say, exactly the two questions that popped into my head as soon as I looked at this library and heard about Simple Violin's features. Simple Violin runs in the full version of Contact. It's just over a gigabyte in size and has over 1,000 samples. In the interface you've got 3 different microphone positions. There's close, mid and far, and lots of other options for customising the sound under the hood, including some presets which you can quickly go to that already have microphone positions and reverb settings set up for you. Simple Violin is a legato solo violin, and that's it. There's no shorts, there's no trills or any other articulations at all. So when you load it up, it plays very nicely in legato within its own limitations. In fact, it does sound exactly like the demo tracks, which is great to hear, and there's nothing worse than loading up an instrument after listening to the demos that you've been blown away by and having a completely different sound coming out the box. This sounds exactly the same. Despite it being called Simple Violin, there are many options for changing the reverb, the legato behaviour, adding simulated vibrato and compression, and humanising the tuning as well. I can't go into all of the different options that are available, but there are plenty there within various windows of the interface. So the library is great for legato playing. As I've stated, it doesn't have any other articulation, but what it does pretty well. It is cheap, it's under $50, which is pretty good for any kind of solo library that's got this kind of functionality under the hood. There's a few things that I do need to let you know about though. The manual isn't specific to this instrument, it's just a generic manual covering legato functionality in all of Fluffy Audio's instruments, so it's not that useful in describing some of the unique features of the library, and there's certainly some controls I had to have a little play with that weren't explained in the manual very well at all. As I say, the library is legato only, and I would like a slightly higher range in this violin. It is possible in other libraries, just not in this one. You'll also find that once you've removed the reverb, which sounds really lovely and smooth things over, you will start to hear exactly what the engine is doing, especially with the far mics that don't sound that great without any reverb added, so it's worth considering. Also, the fact that the latency is pretty huge. You've got half a second or so when you press a note before it moves to the next one. You will need to be moving your MIDI around once you've programmed your parts with this instrument. So in conclusion, that really brings me back to my original questions. Do you need this library? Well, if you need a legato violin that sounds nice, not spectacular I must say, but nice and very cheap, then Simple Violin is probably it. But if you already have a capable solo violin library with other articulations featured, even if it's something that you haven't used for a while, you'll probably be able to squeak a similar kind of sound out of this, and Simple Violin just won't really do anything extra for your template. Despite having a great concept and a really solid sound, personally I would really only find Simple Violin useful if I didn't already have that kind of sound in my arsenal. Check it out at the Fluffy Audio website. You'll be able to listen to the demos there too, and have a look at the walkthrough videos. I've got a couple of really great developer updates for you this week. The first is from Realitone, a favourite developer of mine. It's Realidrums version 2, and this is an update to Mike Green's popular drum library. The aim of Realidrums is to make drum programming as simple as possible, and version 2 comes with a slew of updates, including new brush and hi-hat samples, individual output routing, more grooves, beats and fills, and more time signatures as well. And there are now 4 different ways to drag and drop MIDI into your sequencer. Of course, the basic sound of Realidrums is still there, and it's still as great as ever, with lots of drum samples and a really fast workflow running in the free Contact player. You can check out the version 2 update video by Mike Green. He's a great and funny guy. He really puts his all into his walkthrough videos. You can also try Realidrums, and Mike offers a 30-day refund, no quibble guarantee. He wants everybody to be happy with his products. It's a really nice touch from a small company. So check it out at the Realitone website. It's not often I come across an EQ plugin that's all that different, but this one was sent to me via Facebook and I was really excited by it. It's Surfer EQ2 from SoundRadix. So this takes a monophonic signal like a solo instrument or live vocal, and once you've applied the EQ curve to that, it will detect the incoming frequencies and ride them, kind of constantly changing the emphasis of the EQ. You can actually play the 7-band EQ with MIDI too, and that's particularly crazy. You can get some very strange effects there. Of course, you can also use it as a pretty transparent normal EQ plugin as well. So version 2 here adds surf time and a zero latency live mode. It also adds sidechain detection so that you can use frequencies from one track to affect another, maybe using frequencies from a vocal to shift out the way of the frequencies of a guitar line, something like that. It's not a brand new concept, but it's something that's useful and has been included in version 2. It's also worth knowing that there's a free trial available from the SoundRadix website, so check it out. A really great tip for you this week if you want to create your own string, piano and other instruments from mixing two different instrument libraries together. It uses EQ shaping and I'll show you how to do it here. So this is an interesting technique for using two similar sounding libraries to create a sound all of your own. It's very simple. There's probably more elegant ways to do it in Kontakt, but I'm going to show you how to do it here in Logic. So we've got, in this case, two pianos. The first one is Cinematic Studio Piano. And they're playing both the same piece of MIDI. The second piano is the Piano Mystique from Orchestral Essentials. And basically what we're going to do is take the top end of one piano and the bottom end of the other and play them together, mix them together and create a unique piano tone. So all you need to do for this, really simple, you can use any EQ. We're using here the one in Logic that's just a single band EQ. And on one of the pianos we're placing a high cut, and on the other piano we're placing a low cut filter. And we're going to keep the frequencies the same, so the crossover is identical on both of these. In this case it's 600, but obviously you could move that around. So let's hear the first piano on its own. And that's with the high cut. And the second piano we're just getting the low cut. So as I say, the top end of one and the bottom end of the other, and when you combine these together you can get a unique tone, and you can play with the frequency crossover and also the levels to adjust that tone. And this works on all sorts of instruments that are similar. Here we've done the same thing on cellos. The first cello is from Symphobia. The second one is from Albion. So a high cut on that one. And then a low cut on the second one. And you can see there how you can really simply duplicate tracks, assign them to different instruments, and then use high cut and low cut to combine those tracks back together. Thank you so much for tuning into this week's Samplecast. I'm sorry it's been a long show, although I'm not sure why I'm apologising, because a lot of people do seem to like that from the messages that I get. You can check out the Samplecast website at thesamplecast.com. You can reach us on Twitter, email and Facebook. The information's just there on the screen. And you can also go over to the podcast, as I say, every week and check out the products in all their glory with extra audio demos and more information too. I'll be here again next week. Thanks very much.